Hello, welcome back to my channel. I think this one is another short, quick bookish update. I think only one book this time though. Still, I still have the space constraint. And yep, I just had my shower, hence my shower hair. um, but yeah, today I just kind of want to talk about another nonfiction book that I read, which was incredible. It was unbelievably awesome. Yep. This book is called The Barefoot Woman. It was written by Scholastique Mukasonga. She's an author from Rwanda, and this book was originally written in French. It was translated to English by Jordan Stump. And this book is a memoir about the author's mother. And this is also the first book that from the author that I've read. And yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it. So basically, what's interesting about this book? Okay, it's about the author's mother, and before I really read this book, from the description of the book, I knew that the author's mother was also one of the individuals who died in the Rwandan genocide of the Tutsi people in 1994. So there is this kind of like really, I would say, dark background to this book that sort of sets the tone, at least initially, when I start reading this book. Yeah, and so when I first began like reading like the first few chapters of this book, I we are introduced to the mother of the author, and at the same time also the kind of life that the author had with her family in Rwanda when she was a young girl. And basically it was quite difficult because her community has been driven to a particular area in the country that was quite difficult to live in. The land was arid, and it was difficult to kind of like grow things. They didn't have any livestock, and it was all related to the conflicts that was happening in Rwanda at the time. And so this also kind of like sets a different layer of tone to this book, which kind of makes it, it kind of makes you imagine like how difficult it was for the author's community at the time. And with the knowledge of what eventually happened to the author's mother at the back of my head, I was sort of expecting that this book was going to be like a really difficult read. And so, but this was also like one of the ways this book became very interesting to me. There was something about the structure of the book, like the way that the book began and how it sort of progress. In a way, it subtly subverts my expectation. At the beginning, when we were first introduced to the author's mom, and this book is the memoir of the author's mom, we are given a glimpse into one aspect of her personality, and that was kind of like her protectiveness of her daughters, because when the author was younger, her community was already in this particular position where her people are being oppressed by a different group of people, and because of that, there is kind of like a constant worry that was happening among the people, and especially with her mother, that certain danger could come to her family. Anytime some soldiers could just come over to their house and demand to search the house and to find proof that they're doing something wrong in order to probably do something bad, and all of these things really worried the mother, and the mother became like this really protective person, and she became really resourceful in finding out ways in order to secure or to make sure that her daughters are safe, including like figuring out the ways to get out of the country. And this part of the book at the beginning felt quite tense, and it's because of this tension that was happening in here, and also related to the fact that the background knowledge that we had on the eventual fate of the mom. This part was difficult, right? It was kind of difficult to read. It was a little bit stressful and uncomfortable as well. But what's really interesting about this book also is that after that, eventually we are introduced to wider aspects of the author's community. And as the scope of what was being introduced about the community enlarges, we also know more about the author's mother, more sides to her personality, different aspects of her as a person, different kinds of eccentricities and also personality quirks, the different ways she would show her love to her daughters and also her family, how she provide for her family, how what kind of a person she is from the point of view of her community, and at the same time aspects of the author's community was also introduced. We get to learn more about her community's food, for example, clothing, cultural activities, things like marriage and courtship, the author's education. So yeah, basically different kinds of things were being introduced to us and they're arranged in like different chapters. And these parts are sort of written in this like really tender and compassionate and warm way, which was very much different from the kind of tone that I initially expected in this book. I thought that it was going to be like a really difficult read, but the tone just sort of shifted into these more warmer and loving tone. We get to learn more about the author's community and also her mother in a way that makes us that feels really intimate and also very human. And I must say I was really enthralled by what I read, like the introductions to all of these aspects of the author's life at the time. And all of this also, they were not written, they were written without totally ignoring the kind of harsh reality that the Tutsi people were facing at the time. And you still get glimpses of the kind of hardships that, there's the strife that they have here and there. But the focal point is still on these various aspects of their culture, of their people, and obviously, the author's mom as well. What kind of a person she is, as as a woman, as a mother, as a member of the society, and the author's mom, she feels like a really I forgot to mention her name, Stefania, right? She is presented as someone who is very real in this book, and described in this really loving way, somewhat nostalgic as well. But there is this like really strong, loving emotions that you could feel from the way that the mother, Stefania, is described in this book. And to me, it just feels so beautiful. And at the same time, I feel like there's this kind of like sense of resistance in how the author chose to write about these different topics, about her mom, in this way. Like, yeah, totally the author could have chosen to write something that is, that continues to write about the difficulties that her people are facing at the time, the difficulties that her family was facing. But instead, the book became kind of relentless in focusing on what makes this community feel very human. And I, as a reader, I felt very close to what I read. There was this really strong sense of intimacy with what I read, and I just I find that to be quite beautiful. Anyway, I am now more, I would say, inspired to read other books by this author. I'm not sure how I found this book, but it was probably like a random buy. I didn't know what to expect. I saw it one day and I just kind of like grabbed it. I think I saw it online. And yeah, this book turned out to be quite an awesome read. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. And yeah, let me know if you have read this book or any of the author's other books. And yeah, let me know what you're reading right now. I don't really have anything else to update you guys. But I'll come back with a different video in the future. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again. Bye.